More obscure sword and sorcery films. It started off with Throne of Fire. This is an Italian 1983 film, cram-packed full of Italians. And we see the return of Pietro Torrisi from Sword of the Barbarians, as well as Sabrina Ciani, who was also in Sword of the Barbarians. She's also the gold-headed, naked snake woman in Conquest. And she's also in Ator as his kind of sidekick. So they used her a bunch because she's gorgeous. It appears that her acting is very subpar, but you know she's very good looking. So they throw her in a bunch of these movies, and she had the physique for obviously the ass kicking scenes. So yeah, Pietro is going to be your muscle bound dude in this. He abhors shirts, and he fights a bunch of dudes, obviously. So what type of story is this? This is going to be your type of prophecy story. A child of Satan is born, and when he's born, it says here, it's one of the best goopy jelly child creatures ever presented in Eurotrash barbarianism. Of course, that's the guy who does Reebok.com, where I got this DVD from. And it's obviously a burn from VHS. But the scene is just hilarious. The kid, the little baby that is born, you know, it looks like a ghoulie or something, covered in slime and a goop. It's very hilarious. But, so it's a child of Satan, it grows up, it takes over the throne, and the throne, which of course the movie is named after, it says here, the great Odin has fashioned a magnificent throne that awaits the rightful lord of the people. So in order to get it, you have to marry the princess, who is Sabrina. For all those who try and unjustly sit upon the throne, they immediately burst into flame. That's detrimental to your body, as it pretty much just melts you down quickly. Very efficient chair for melting bodies. So, you know, the son of Satan grows up. He looks fine once he's older. So I don't know why he was such a monster when he was born. But he usurps the throne, takes over. He's going to marry the princess. He's got an eclipse coming. You've got that prophecy thing. She's the princess. Our big beefy dude doesn't show up till way late in the movie, I feel, so that kind of sucks. And his name is Siegfried, whatever. And, you know, they have to fight a bunch of dudes, and they get captured a bunch, and then freed and captured a bunch. He's all waiting, of course, the bad guy is to marry her within a time period. So that's what you got. It's got him. The cover looks awesome. You know, him here fighting this snake, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. The scene is hilarious because the snake is completely docile on his neck, but he's acting like you know, this is a life or death struggle, and it looks nothing of the sort. So that's funny. Of course, the cover looks awesome, and it doesn't look anything like that in the film. And she doesn't look as cool as that in the film either. So yeah, the two of them going around, getting captured, recaptured. It's pretty good. It's not fantastic, but I think when it comes to the Italian sword and sorcery films, it's up there. It's pretty good. His somebody that he knows from his past can do some magic for him, and it's kind of cool. But it's you know, all these movies could use some more monsters and more fantasy elements in them, of course, for me. But of course, that costs money, especially for these Italian filmmakers. So it's not bad. It's definitely, it's not Sword of the Barbarians. It's not one of the best sword and sorcery films by a long shot, but it does have some good laughs. And it does have one thing in it, which is a big fight scene that's completely done in slow-mo, and that is absolutely terrible. I can't stand these big, dramatic fight scenes that are just nothing but slow-mo, and they did that a bunch in some of these movies. I don't know why, if it was for budget or just because their choreographer is terrible, but it's a terrible scene. And movie Invincible Barbarian, which I probably will do in one of these videos, it has a really bad one as well, which I'm like, why is this in slow-mo? It's not that dramatic of a scene, but whatever. They did it a bunch. So the second one is called Thor the Conqueror, and this is a full moon grindhouse film. So your budget is next to nothing, and we're starting to get a little bit low here on the good factor. It says, a tale of mythology and magic of how Thor, a legendary god, no, he's not, triumphs over overwhelming odds to great victory and the destruction of his foes. Guess what? His parents were slain at birth. Okay? And he's raised with Etna, the Birdman, who's kind of like his Merlin. He's Arthur and the other guy's Merlin. And so when he's born, he takes, like, pretty much, he takes a D8 longbow shot while he's all swaddled up, and he survives it. But of course, he's Thor, so he's a god. I don't know. This is very, very low, like, barbarian type stuff. Everybody looks like a barbarian. Everybody looks very rough. There's not a whole bunch of magic in it. Etna's supposed to be a magician, and he can pretty much summon up an owl and a horse. And he, he trains and learns Mr. Thor on the ways of women, which is pretty much by force. So that's not great. Those are not great scenes. And then, like, later on, he takes a woman, and the woman, like, falls in love with him. So that's horrible. But who knows with these Italians and these barbarian type movies. He gets blinded at some point. There's some spirits and stuff. A little bit of special effects are involved. But he's pretty much an idiot. Overall, he doesn't know much. He's extremely oiled up. The oil budget was through the roof with this film, too. And he's constantly covered in some sort of sheen. So he's got that going for him. But he fights some dudes off at one point with a bone, like a huge bone. So that just shows you, what he's going with. He does get a sword. It does not look as good as that. And all these, it looks terrible. A lot of times they're like, here's my sword. And I'm like, that sword's horrible. It doesn't look very good. It's not got a sleek design. It's kind of big and cumbersome. But whatever. So, like I said, you're getting borderline caveman with this one. And a non-existent budget. So it's not fantastic. It's very cheap on Amazon. It should probably be in your collection if you just want to have a movie that's got, a big dude with oil, with a sword, hacking dudes down. And it's a story of revenge. Big surprise. It can go into your collection because it's cheap. And but it's not one that you're going to be like, wow, it's Thor the Conqueror. Let's fire that up. I guess just for goofs. The third one is a trauma film, Time Barbarians. Lloyd Kaufman and his gaggle of filmmakers have got, $10,000 to make a film. I'm probably being gracious with that. But he does have one good thing going for it. It's got Darren McBee, who's known as Malibu, who is a very big buff dude who plays our hero in this film. He's got a huge lion-like mane of hair. Is one of his signature things going for him. And he looks good. He looks good. His body's huge. His outfits look good. And that's one thing I really like about the film is that he switches outfits a bunch. And I like that in Conan the Barbarian. It's one of its best features for me is how Conan switches his outfits out a lot. And unfortunately in Conan the Destroyer, he's just got pretty much the banana hammock throughout the whole film, which is not very great. Even though it's showing off his, Arnold's physique. So he does change a couple times when he is a barbarian, his kind of fantasy world that he's in, or wherever he's at. And he's a warrior king of the forest, okay? And it says here, he butts heads with the evil wizard Mandrake. He soon finds his kingdom in peril. There's a big war, and he takes the life of his warrior queen. And this is Mandrake who does that. And he escapes into a time portal to modern-day Los Angeles. When that happens, the budget is gone. That has happened several times in other films, and it's always been a woe's me moment for me when I'm in the theater or when I'm seeing it, where I'm like, oh no, here we go. Beastmaster 2 did it, Master of the Universe did it, The Magnificent Time Barbarians does it, and it's just bad. And the movie it's pretty much two movies. You've got him in his Sword Sorcery world looking great, big and buff, fighting dudes, and overall okay. His wife gets killed, and that sucks. But then all of a sudden, let's leave and go to modern-day Los Angeles, and, this is modern 19, whatever this film is, 80-something, who knows. But, so you got modern-day 80s Los Angeles, and the budget's gone, and so is your enjoyment of the film. So it's only, just watch half of it. Once he gets to L.A., you can watch it once just to groan at it, but then just stop it. So just watch the film for how good he looks in his big buffness and his cool outfits. And I'd love to have seen him in more films like this, not going to L.A. or anything in modern times. It does have some magic, obviously, with the time portal. No monsters or anything like that. But it's also quite cheap, as is a good bit of trauma films. But it says the epic fantasy unleashed, being kind of a little bit too much for that. It does have some extras and stuff like that on it, but it is fairly cheap. He does look good, and that's about it. He's just another story of revenge, so you're not going to get much story out of these three. So there we go. We've got two films here that you can get on Amazon. This is another Revoc film, and they have some fun stuff they didn't show last with the first video. But when you buy one, 3 of these or so are placed in there, and they're pretty much the covers of movies that are also available on there. So I'm kind of pipping that website out because that's where I get them from. Some of these that are hard to find, and there they are. That's obscure sword and sorcery. We're getting kind of, that they do have magic in them. They do have big buff dudes in them, and oiled down for one of them in particular. But they could always have more monsters. These are very low on the monster. In fact, almost none. But you know, I wish they had more monsters, of course, but that's where the budget starts to ramp up. I love guys in rubber suits. That would have been enjoyable. So, and I think in Throne of Fire, he does fight something in a cave that's kind of like some sort of asshole. That might be a monster. But there it is. That's number 2, and I hope you look forward and watch number 3. That'll be out sometime in the future here. So go watch some Sword and Sorcery films, guys and girls. Later.